Good evening. Welcome to Employment Law Today. I'm your host, Eric Sauver. I'm an employment law and business law attorney and host of this weekly video podcast and talk radio show right here on Talk Radio NYC. And the focus of my show is really intended to help business owners, including small to mid-sized businesses, companies, and entrepreneurs as they navigate and overcome the obstacles and hurdles that the pandemic has placed in their way. And along the way, we also have helpful information and guidance for you that should be beneficial even when this pandemic is a light in our rearview mirror. So with that brief introduction, I'd like to welcome my guest tonight, Maxie Groebner. Maxie, welcome to the show. Oh, I think you're muted, Maxie. It happens.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Happens to everyone. Thanks again for being on. I'd like to introduce you. And our topic tonight is called Your Website A Game, Your Online Presence in the Pandemic. And Maxie Groebner is a senior partner and marketing director at Studio 6 Agency. Maxie knows how to keep everything in the office running smoothly, a skill she attributes, albeit warily, to the fact that her astrological sign is Libra. Mine's in Aries. Interesting. I'm not sure what that means, but maybe there's some connection. But it probably has more to do with the fact that she has had ample experience. Maxie graduated from the Technical University of Ilmenau in Germany with an MBA in marketing. She has worked in the marketing departments of the German TV channel MDR, the Wurzner Food Company, and Go Go Gorilla Media, a diversity that demonstrates just how versatile she can be. Once Maxie moved to New York, she became a partner in Studio 6 Agency, where she applies all her skills, passion, creativity, and dedication to helping its clients succeed. So with that introduction, Maxie, once again, glad to have you on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me. It's such a pleasure to be finally on this. I've heard so much about it, so I'm very excited.
Sure thing. So as I mentioned, you and I have spoken, and the topic, of course, is for our listeners tonight is your website A Game, the online presence in the pandemic. And just by way of background, before we get to our questions, I'd note that with the COVID-19 pandemic's virtual new world, many of the in-person methods for businesses to advertise or to gain exposure and demonstrate their sophistication are unavailable. The days of sponsoring company cocktail hours, giving seminars from one's Manhattan-based office, or showcasing your services or your products face-to-face will hopefully return again, but we have a while to go. So now more than ever, having a professional online presence, a modern, accessible website, a digital marketing campaign, and advertising strategy, these are all crucial for your business's success. So tonight, Maxie Groebner and I will address the latest changes for business owners in terms of website presence, along with strategies for improving SEO in the age of COVID. So yes, with that, why don't I ask you, Maxie, if my first question tonight, can you tell our listeners a bit more about yourself and also perhaps what prompted you to co-found Studio 6 Agency?
Sure. Like I said, my name is Maxie Groebner. I actually came here in 2008. I graduated in Germany, and I never really wanted to live in Germany. And I always found this American way of life very interesting. So kind of catching my entrepreneurial spirit, coming over to the US, starting to work, making some really good connections within New York City, like working at Go Gorilla Media, and then finding a partner and finding somebody who sort of had that entrepreneurial spirit as well in the advertising world. And I thought it was an interesting concept. I never really thought of myself as working in advertising. But then I was having that other person, that creative side, where really I come from the marketing and from the more of the strategy on how to really lay out the plan, and then finding somebody who comes with the creative. And we thought, why don't we just create our own agency and bring our clients forward? Sort of starting Studio 6 Agency. And we've been in business for a few years now and been really successful, even with COVID hitting last year and really putting a little bit of a damper on our growth and success that we've built over the last few years, but really taking out the positives that came out of it and really thriving with that moving forward. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight is really websites and how to improve your website, improve it, update it, and really put a good footprint out there in the world.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I mean, and it's interesting that you talked about, right, these two sides, the marketing, the strategy side, and the creative side. And I mean, I dare say there's some creativity involved with marketing and strategy as well. But I think that having an analytical side to a company and the creative as well, and marrying those two, it does sound like an interesting step up or an extra benefit you can give to your clients. So it's interesting to hear that background, including the being in Germany and then coming to New York City and having the entrepreneurial bug bite you as it does to so many of us. That's great to hear. And you mentioned websites, and I definitely do want to address that. I want to mention the pandemic a bit, and I'm curious, like, what were some key changes, Maxie, that you've seen with your clients over the past year based on COVID-19, like the
Sure.
needs? Mhm.
I mean, like once COVID hit, our agency has like a variety of clients. So it's like we
Mhm.
service not just one specific industry. So we could see it from a like from a few different aspects. There was some within like hospitality and entertainment that really shut down within a day. There was no like preparation. There was no like, oh, let's do something else. And for those types of clients, it really became important to find other ways to communicate with their audience. Like it wasn't like you couldn't go to a concert venue anymore. That was just not possible. So we had to find ways virtually or through Zoom. All of a sudden, everybody was talking about Zoom to create these experiences either with an artist or through, for example, an Instagram takeover, like reaching out to artists,
Mhm.
figuring out, okay, can we do something together to like, instead of going to a concert hall, just go on your phone and watch your artist play a couple of songs on their Instagram profile. So that
Mm.
was really like, depending on the industry. Another industry that was, I mean, restaurants, the same thing. Some restaurants shut down, some other ones immediately went over to takeout. But what a lot of our restaurants didn't have in place was online ordering. Yes, there's
Mm.
like the Grubhubs out there and the DoorDashes and all of that stuff. But a lot of restaurants just wanted to have that in on their website. As part, you just go to their website, you order your food, you can either do takeout or delivery or whatever you wanted. So that
Mm.
really became part of making that switch for our clients to adding on as how they can update their website, for
Mm.
example, online ordering. And then for us to make that switch as well, online ordering is great, but what are some other components that the client didn't have before? For food
Mhm.
photography. I mean,
Mhm.
like
Mm.
if you're not actually going to the restaurant anymore, you cutting out that entire experience of a restaurant. So you have to kind of get that feel for that plate you're gonna get beforehand when you pick it out on the menu.
Mm.
So really like adding on other things for the client really became important. Like I said, photography was one of them.
Hmm. It's interesting. I hear, the food photography I had not heard about. Well, I've heard of it before, but not in the context of in a COVID related service that restaurants are now seeking out. And I have some restaurants that are clients of mine as an employment law attorney. We've been doing more with their labor and wage and hour issues and stuff. So I guess they don't really talk to me about their food and pictures and so forth. But it is interesting how what I hear from you is that I hear not only a change in services, and the website can then be used to facilitate those services, such as online ordering or placing orders for a restaurant or takeout or an e-commerce store. But I also hear that the website then is about, if I'm not mistaken, sort of is it about promoting that change, letting the public know, hey, this is a new service we have in light of COVID-19.
Correct. And like
Mhm.
kind of getting back to a little bit the e-commerce side. I mean, some of our clients were brick and mortar stores.
Mhm.
So again, they were shut down. You couldn't go to a store anymore. So we got these frantic calls at like midnight saying like, we need
Mhm.
to get an online presence. We need to get an online presence. Sort of like we've talked to this client many months before, all of these years saying like, you need to start an e-commerce. A part of your website should be e-commerce. You should start getting some online orders. But then when so like everything happened and the shutdown happened, then they're like, oh no, now we really have to do it because it was
Mhm.
the only way to really increase their revenue. So getting back to the e-commerce part, that definitely was something that
Mhm.
we had to change for a lot of our clients, just to like immediately within a few weeks or days even getting that online presence set up so they can drive some of
Mhm.
their revenue. Another thing that we did for a lot of our clients is creating new revenue streams.
Okay.
So for example, when you couldn't go anywhere, like doing things virtually, offering a class, trying to sell spots to that class, to really talk to the client to figure out, okay, out of their audience that they talk to, what are some additional new services that they could offer so they can keep themselves afloat and continue increasing or like keeping some sort of revenue stream going.
Right, right. It's interesting, Max. I've had many guests on the show over the last, I guess it's been 6.5 months. Started the show in September, and when I've been working with my clients as well, for a long time, but definitely pre-COVID, but during the pandemic too. And I'm finding that what I'm hearing you say about clients who, just my observation here, not a question, but observation. I'm finding that many clients have had things on their back burner to-do list, especially business owners and entrepreneurs. They have this to-do list of, I'd love to get my website more modern, more accessible. I'd love to add a different service, such as an e-commerce, not just an in-person. And they've been saying this pre-COVID. And then I think if there's any silver linings to COVID, and I know it's been a horrible experience for many people with some very, tragic outcomes, but if there is a silver lining, I think it really has forced a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs to do things that they were meaning to do for a while. The things that were once a sort of a luxury ideal. Oh, it would be nice. I should really do e-commerce for my store. Oh, I should really have some updated pictures of my food for the menu. Now it became a necessity. And I know that's really a great way to look at that silver lining. So good to hear that you had that for your clients as well.
And it's like sort of a validation as like an agency that you've been talking to your clients all along of doing these things, and now they finally realize, yes, they should be really doing them. And then it's just providing that guidance. Okay, what's that next step gonna be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. You can guide your clients towards different ideals and goals. I know I've certainly been guiding clients that can relate in terms of what they should be doing with their businesses or their corporate entity formation, and a lot of them actually were able to address those issues during the pandemic. So it's great that you had clients that can actually sit down with you and say, okay, we need to revise our website or update it, add services. And you're right, it is sort of a bit of a validation, I hear you saying, in terms of these are things you recommend or recommended to your clients, and now they can come to you and you can help them and get those things done. I have obviously some more questions for you because I want to hear from you and your experience, and we have about less than a minute for a commercial break. So rather than pose a new question, I'll maybe take the break a bit early. I'll just say once again, I am Eric Sauver. I'm an employment law attorney and host of the show Employment Law Today. My guest tonight is Maxie Groebner from Studio 6 Agency, talking about websites and website design in the time of COVID. So folks, stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc, now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you interested in having a better relationship with yourself, others, and God? Greetings. I'm your host, Dr. George Andow, for the show A Journey Through into Awareness. On my show, we journey into the awareness that the mind of God is the true seat of our personal consciousness. We join together each Monday at 7 p.m., so tune in on Talk Radio NYC.
Did you know that nearly 1 in 5 adults in the U.S. battles mental illness? Hi, my name is Albert Daba. I'm the host of the show Extra Innings. Extra Innings, I discuss the topics of wellness, mental health, and the experience of surviving multiple suicides within my family. Listen live every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern to Extra Innings for discussions with sports figures, artists, mental health professionals, many others. That's Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Graham Dobbin. Join me every Thursday evening for the Mind Behind Leadership here on talkradio.nyc. We speak to people from business, sport, military and politics, all around what makes a great leader. The personal experiences of what's worked and, maybe more importantly, what hasn't worked. So that's 7 o'clock every Thursday evening, the Mind Behind Leadership here on talkradio.nyc, listening to real stories of real leaders.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back to Employment Law Today, and I'm your host, Eric Sauver, here on Talk Radio NYC with my special guest tonight, Maxie Groebner, co-founder and partner and creative director at Studio 6 Agency. And Maxie, before the break, you were talking about some of the changes in the services that your clients have needed in the last year of the pandemic. And I'm wondering, in terms of your agency, your company's experience, can you tell us about any pivots that you had to make internally, like for yourself as an agency in light of the pandemic?
Sure. I mean, like number one was working remotely. I mean, like that's really
Seems like a big one for everyone.
Everybody left.
Right.
So that was like one of the main pivot. I mean, it was really, we had to hire a lot more people. I mean, which was good for like, just when it came to like growing our agency. Pivot, not really, because we were offering most of the services that we just added onto the clients because they needed it. We already were offering them. We were offering anything from videography, photography, and all that stuff. So it wasn't really something that we had to change our services. But it definitely, we had to add on a lot more things because we got so much more web work. I mean, like that really, we saw that's immediate switch from like, okay, brick and mortar going out. Now we want to do a website. We need to like create these beautiful images, these beautiful things that people can go to enjoy and do online shopping or learn more about a company or to even apply for a job. I mean, like those were like just the different things that our clients reached out to us that we needed to do for them. It wasn't really something that we had to add on. It was more like expanding on the services that we had. I
see. So unlike some of your clients, let's say a restaurant client of yours that may have to add a takeout option, or unlike a brick and mortar store that became all e-commerce, it was more, what I'm hearing is more of your services, more of the videography, the website design, the online website build up and so forth, and expanding your agency as a result of that. Certainly the remote is a challenge for, I think, a lot of people to get used to, right?
Yes. I mean, that was definitely a challenge, and it continues to be a challenge because it's just not something that when you used to working in an office with people for years and years and years, and there's just a certain like way of doing things, and then all of a sudden you cut off. You have to not learn how to do Zoom, but it's different than to be in a room with a client or a potential client or one of our clients or even like your coworkers, and just it's just different to do it. I mean, like just like even having a client meeting, like when you're at a client or when you're at a restaurant or a new client, you get to see their office, you get to see their place of business, you talk to people. That sort of got all cut out, and we had to get used to these new ways of doing things.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think that's an interesting observation, and I certainly imagine it must be challenging as a creative person, because a lot of creativity comes from face-to-face collaboration, and now you're doing it more from home on Zoom. And you mentioned, websites earlier tonight and also just now. And I wonder if it's a good segue into like what are some of the, say, changes in people's websites now that people aren't having those face-to-face meetings? Let's say a company really wants to stand out to their audience. Like people can't come to their office in Manhattan and say, wow, this is a gorgeous office on Madison Avenue, or wow, this is a wonderful dinner. So are there any like extra things that you add to a website to make it stand out during these times?
Yeah, I mean, there's like different ways to help with like that experience that you really have on a flat surface. I mean, like one experience is like really adding that video component, or to do like some sort of virtual tour. Like, for example, we have a wedding venue as one of our clients, and it really, how do you present a venue to a bride? Like, that's just something that's like, either you have to be there in person, you have to feel it, you have to see it.
Yeah.
And like really just adding on that virtual experience, that virtual tour to walk through, even with like augmented reality. I mean, that really has become very like something that's really important to clients at this point. So you can put on the little camera and you can walk through. It just makes things a lot easier, and you can really experience as a future bride, you can experience the hall that you always wanted to get married in. So that's definitely a trend. Like even like augmented reality has become very important, even for websites, just to like have this as an add-on resource on there for sure. When it comes to websites, just like general things that we never really thought about it beforehand, it's just a lot of people are on their phones. Like people are like, yes, they have a desktop computer, but like with the pandemic, we felt, but for our clients, that a lot of people are on their phones. So just like even like having your website mobile friendly, have a very short load time. Like those are little things that we even just had to implement for our clients to just like rethink their websites again. And when we build new websites, that's definitely something that people should think about.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that over the years that that's an important thing to have in terms of your website being mobile friendly. And I mean, I think any times, but certainly you're right with the pandemic and people more are on their phones more frequently. They're working more remotely and they're either using laptops or their phone to communicate. I know that during the last spring and summer, a lot of meetings I had with people were people were zooming in from their phone. They were outside because they needed to get out of their apartment or their house, wherever they might be, and they weren't in their office to step outside and come back. So it's interesting that that you're doing those services as well. You mentioned augmented reality. Is that also known as virtual reality? And is that a service you provide for your clients, or?
It is one of the services that we provide. Yes, we're adding it on, not internally as a company, but we have vendors that we work with that provide that as one of their services, and we've done that for clients. It's become a really nice feature, like I said, for like a wedding hall that really you need to be there. You need to like experience it. That really has some really cool stuff happening.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds like really a cool add-on type of service to have, especially like you said, when people can't be there in person. I mean, I feel like a lot of the web presence is about getting to have an experience as a consumer or a client
Yep.
with the vendor or with your service provider. So I think it's another, again, reason why it's important to have your A game with websites and with your web presence and any social media you might have as well. So
Well, that's sort of like the next segue. Like, yes, you have your website, which is a beautiful thing that you can go to. You can like experience it as a user. You can find out more information. But then it's also like those other items that come with it, like your social media presence. They should all kind of have that same story to tell. So when with COVID hitting and people updating their website, it also became important to update their online directories, their social media platforms. So just really portray it as like one coherent story and not like, oh, this piece is nice now, but this piece is not so nice now. So like it's sort of like bringing it all to the same level.
is that a common theme, would you say, in branding and marketing to make sure that, especially on digital marketing, that all the person's digital footprints, social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, website are all kind of in alignment, that they're.
They should. Yes, that's very important. And that's really something that with any new client that comes on board with us, that we really make sure it is consistent. If we have all these pieces that we are touching on, then the website should have the same look and feel as your social media, should have the same look and feel as your, like I said, online directories are like really the Yelps, the LinkedIn's, like they should all have that same look and feel to really show one brand voice. Like you don't want to like have one voice on one and another one on another platform.
Right. Yeah. Yes, I've seen how colleagues over the years, I've witnessed they have a beautiful website, and then I would go to look them up on LinkedIn, look up their profiles, see what they have to offer, and sometimes everyone's basic profile is just the person's no picture, the name, where they work, the name of their company or practice, and their education, and I think there's kind of a disconnect there, right? On one hand, you see the website shows that they're very involved, that they have a certain presence online when people search them, but then the lack of that presence on social media can really be an issue. Is that a service that have you found your clients needing more help this last year with social media marketing, or?
It's interesting because like with the pandemic hitting, a lot of our clients were like, oh no, we can take care of this ourselves. Now we have some extra time on our hands and we can do that. We have like, because like business was dropping for a lot of clients, unfortunately, they found themselves with a couple of hours here and there, and they started doing it themselves. But we did notice that a lot of the clients that either gave it up or said we can do it internally did come back because they just realized that they can't provide that level of quality that we've had done for them before by themselves. It's just not something. And then they're getting busy now again too. So it's sort of like you want to keep a consistent voice. You don't want to like post every day for 3 months, but then drop off and then not post anything for a month. That's not very good. It's also not very good when it comes to your website. Another important thing on your website is that you should always keep your content updated. So if you create your site, but every month there should be a new piece being added to it. Either it's through a blog post or it's through a new section on the website or a new image to really help with that SEO, because Google or like any search engine crawler will recognize that there's new content there, and that always helps with your organic SEO.
Right. You know, these are all, I think, issues that a lot of us as professional service providers, I think one thing you and I have in common, we're providing a professional service for our clients. And a lot of folks, when they're, I think, have extra time on their hands, or at least perceived extra time in their hands, and either they have less money coming in or a perceived fear of less money coming in, they try to take on more things in-house. They think it's a constructive use of their time. And don't get me wrong, it might be if they truly are well-versed in those areas. But I can see how it can also be problematic because they don't, as you mentioned, they do not have the experience level you have in terms of making sure everything's consistent. I think it's a really interesting point you made. I think a lot of people I know tend to be very active on their website with blog posts, active on social media with posts and articles, but then when they get busy, they disappear for 3 months, then they come back, and you're right, it's not a consistent way to approach social media, which I think is pretty important. Interesting, yes, for sure.
And it's like just like keeping you engaging all these people, and you're getting like a good like amount of page views or engagement or likes, and then all of a sudden you drop off. So your whole algorithm just goes up and goes back down. So all the work that you've done was really for nothing. So like with social media, with any sort of online platform, it is all about consistency, and that's very important. And a lot of clients do a great job. They just don't have the time for it.
Right. Oh, I think a really excellent point there as well in terms of the time factor, which could really be an issue. And then it's all about consistency. And as you said, you don't want your prior hard work in one area to sort of fall off, and then the algorithms are off, and you're not noticed in terms of SEO and your visibility. And I'd like to talk more with you about some questions and topics on clients' visibility and certain future trends for businesses now that we're in a transition and sort of heading back to some semblance of normal, but we do have to take a commercial break. So I'll just once again say that I'm Eric Sauver. I'm an employment law business law attorney at the law office Eric M. Sauver. I'm also the host of the show, Employment Law Today, and I'm joined tonight by my special guest, Maxie Groebner from Studio 6 Agency. So stick around and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Do you run or are ready to open your own business? Hi, I'm Jeremiah Fox. I've been operating and opening small business for the last 25 years, and I'm the host of the new show, The Entrepreneurial Web. Tune in every Friday at noon Eastern Time for insights and stories on the nuances of running small business right here on Fridays at noon, talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I am Joseph Franklin McElroy, host of the new podcast, Wise Content Creates Wealth. It airs on talkradio.nyc every Friday afternoon from 1 p.m. to 2. They say content is king. Well, wise content rules the world. Every episode features tools and tips for content marketing and business people telling the wise content stories of that success. Tune in every Friday from 1 p.m. to 2 on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Employment Law Today. I'm your host, Eric Sauver. I'm here tonight with Maxie Groebner, a website design and digital marketing talent extraordinaire and founder partner and creative director as well at Studio 6 Agency. So Maxie, really a good conversation tonight that we're talking about all these issues of online presence and bringing your website A-game. Really giving some really good insights and good examples of how people's needs have changed during the pandemic and how you and your company, or your agency, I should say, meet those needs. So really good to have you on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. So I have a question for you, which is similar to a question I ask a lot of my guests because, we're looking towards the future. So I'm looking towards the future, thinking about as it relates to you and your company and your services, and wondering what future trends do you see in digital marketing or website design space? Like where are we, let's say in 2023 or something like that? Any thoughts about that?
Where are we in 2021? Well, we're definitely going to add a lot more e-commerce sales to that.
Okay.
I'm just like looking at like the trends that are coming and just like looking at like some of the web designs. It's really more about the user. So any website that we've built over the last 5 to 10 years have always been user-centric, but with the pandemic coming on and like really how it develops and how creating that individual user experience, it really has become more and more important to like even pull that through even more. So it's really, like I said, it's creating that user experience and making it specific to that user that's on your site. So trends, there are different trends. One big trend is like really that virtual component. If it's creating like a virtual connection with somebody when you go on the site and you already have somebody that talks to you. People love to see a person on a website. It's like either that eye contact, it's like really connecting with that other person, not just an image of, for example, you're looking for like a service industry, you're looking for like an HVAC system. You don't want to see an HVAC system. You want to see somebody that enjoys an HVAC system. Somebody who like lives in their comfort and really like tell that story. So you're making that immediate connection with that person. Like I said, that virtual component, that experiencing it, even like just immediately going on a video chat, or even if it's just a regular chat, video is always better. People respond to it a lot better. That really has become one of the trends, and that will continue evolving more and more. And then what comes out of that user experience is like you go to the website, but then you're being targeted after the fact. So then you go on your Facebook, or you go on your Instagram, or you go on the Wall Street Journal website, but that ad from that company that people were just on that website on follows them around. That's another big thing that has become more and more important to really keep following that person in the internet. It's not, you don't follow them by name. Nobody knows who you are. It's really just by IP address, but just following around, creating that extra experience, talking to them, to that user again after 7 days, talking to that user again after 28 days, to really keep your message in front of them.
So you talk to them sort of like through your website. It takes sort of the IP address. It notes it, and then it circles back to them from the website, or like, for example, with content, or
right. It's called retargeting. So like whenever you go to a website, a little snippet of where you search from your web browser gets saved on the back end. It's just, you would have to build like a whole VPN server to avoid all of those things. The regular user just goes on a site, their little snippet is being collected. And then, for example, Facebook or Instagram use that little snippet, and they can follow you around, and they can show you on your social media feed. Sometimes you go to a website or you look something up on Amazon, and all of a sudden later you see that same product on your Facebook feed, and you're like, I didn't know I was looking for that. That's that snippet following you around. And that's like our clients, it becomes important to create those messages. Like, what are the messages once they visited your website? What are those messages going to be on Facebook? Like, did you forget something? Or how else can we help you? Just to follow up that initial contact that they had on the website.
Right. Which is interesting too. It brings up that whole balancing act, I imagine, of you want a strategy as well, maybe a strategic issue, right? Of wanting to provide that user with follow-up in terms of related ads. They can say, oh, I need this product also, or I need this as well, without a follow-up that becomes too like stalking, not stalking per se, but
I always used the word creepy. We can say creepy. It is very creepy. When it came out, we were all like, oh my God, we can follow everybody around. And they sort of know that we're doing it, but everybody accepts it at this point. But it also makes it great for our clients because they can be very specific. So even like, let's say you go on a site, but you don't follow within like their age frame. So you're not going to get to see that message. Only somebody who's a lot younger, because Facebook has, as part of their data, has your age group.
Sure.
That's when you sign up for it. For example, you agree to having that made public in an advertising frame. So for our clients, it's great because they're not overspending on their budget, because they can spend to a very specific audience. Like say you only want to target 25 to 30-year-olds, they can do that. They're not like that. All of that advertising budget waste is sort of like a moot point at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of that whole AI, the artificial intelligence, right, aspect of things, and how that plays into having a good website that can pick up on user data. And of course, people always have the option of unfollowing certain ads, unfollowing. So there's not that sense that they're really, hooked in or trapped. I think what I hear you saying, it's about two things. One, making things more convenient for the user in terms of like follow up, and also saving your client, right, the advertiser, the promoter, from that extra cost of having to constantly create new ad campaigns or new sort of like online commercials and such for their product or service.
Correct. And even like with COVID, we've seen a tremendous increase in like online ads. So we're placing ads to like Google AdWords, for example, for our clients. And usually like the bidding process before COVID wasn't as bad. Like there weren't as many people bidding for one keyword. But with COVID hitting, with that online platform being like one of the main forms how people started to advertise, all of a sudden we realized, or we saw like an increase in bids, and we had to spend a lot more money to reach the same amount of people than we did before. So having that AI sort of on the website to really specifically target one specific audience, that really helped dial back on that budget we spend for our clients.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I guess it's the way of the future, sort of this virtual experience. Number one, number two, the AI, the way of connecting with your audience and your user, user experience being easy flowing, and along those lines. It's interesting also how things like a pandemic can really accelerate, right, these trends, because people are so much more now resorting to and relying upon an online presence for everything they're doing, for their shopping needs, for their services that they have and that they're buying and using. So it's good to know that good examples, I think, that you're giving of sort of trends that businesses ought to be mindful of and follow.
Even when it comes to service companies, a lot of the ones that we've added in the last 6 months are just like even how-to videos. A lot of people, yes, they go on YouTube and they find a random video that they watch on like how to do something. But some of our clients, when it came to like service industry, because you couldn't just go to the store and ask a question, then we developed like, okay, what are like the 10 most frequent asked questions? And we did a video and we put it up on the website, and then people can go on the website and it becomes a resource for them, but it also sets you apart as like the expert in the field. So that's also something that a lot of our clients thought helped them with their business and to make that additional sale, just setting them apart as the expert.
Right. Yeah, I think it's important to note that too, that the video aspect, video chat, video marketing, video commercials, presentations are really, I find a trend that's picking up a lot more. I think it has been for a number of years now, but I think in the last year, people, I know colleagues who mentioned that they can no longer meet for, like you mentioned, in restaurants for over lunch to pitch a presentation for a new service or to, to meet new clients. I have colleagues in commercial property insurance, for example, where it's a very lunch and dinner time driven means of finding new prospects and sort of connecting with them and showing them your services. And so it's good that people can explore video marketing as well, or video as part of their online presence and their website.
Even just like, even when you think about real estate, like you used to have a sales office, you would go into a sales office, they would show you around, they would go to different properties, or if you have one development, you would go into the sales office and you would see all those virtual graphics, and you can really imagine it. You don't have that, or you didn't have it for the longest time. It's slowly coming back. But I feel like people enjoy it. People like that they can just go online at 2:00 in the morning and look at real estate. Like they can look at a video of a walkthrough of some virtual experience, and they don't have to do it in the lunch hour. They don't have to rush through it because they have an appointment. And that convenience, I think a lot of people enjoy. And I think a lot of people don't want to see that gone even after this pandemic.
That last point, Max, is a really good point you made. I think, and I tend to agree as well. We've become so much of a virtual, adaptable workforce and also consumer force as well, right? We're in terms of we're buying things online, we're providing services online, and when this pandemic is over, one day, eventually, right, when it does end, that I think there used to be that phrase about returning to normal, but I really do think it'll be, like people were saying, a new normal. And so a lot of these services we've been using won't completely disappear because they serve a valuable function. I mean, I think Zoom, on one hand, people might be kind of sick of Zoom and maybe want to just do as much in person as possible at first, because it's like I haven't seen a person sit down face to face in a boardroom or an office in a long time. But people have become more used to and adaptable to online, Zoom and marketing. So I think it's a good example that, these trends like a virtual experience of a tour will probably be here for a while. I mean,
absolutely. I don't see them gone anytime soon. And it's just people have gotten used to it. I mean, you can do everything online, like.
Right. Yeah. It's good to have that, that your trends that you're doing, the services, the trends you're seeing are likely to stay. My sincere hope is that we strike some kind of a balance where we're not becoming sort of a just remote virtual online society per se, but that we have that nice balance. But I think you provide, that nice, that aspect of the online, you really presence, you really give that, with terms of your services and what you provide for clients. We have another commercial break. Time does fly when you're having fun, huh? So, folks, I'm Eric Sauver, host of this weekly show, Employment Law Today. My guest tonight, Maxie Groebner from Studio 6 Agency. So stick around. We have some interesting questions left, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauver, employment law, business law attorney, and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
Howdy, I am Joseph Franklin McElroy, host of the new podcast, Gateway to the Smokies. It airs on talkradio.nyc every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 7. Every episode is dedicated to memorable experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and surrounding areas. This show features experts and locals who will expound upon the richness of culture, history, and adventure that awaits you in the Smokies. Tune in every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 on talkradio.nyc.
Do you love or are you intrigued about New York City and its neighborhoods? I'm Jeff Goodman, host of Rediscovering New York, a weekly show that showcases New York's history and its extraordinary neighborhoods. Every Tuesday live at 7 p.m., we focus on a particular neighborhood and explore its history, its vibe, its feel, and its energy. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Employment Law Today. I'm your host, Eric Sauver. I am an employment law business law attorney representing business owners, management, and employers. And I'm also the host of this video podcast each week. And my guest tonight, as mentioned, is Maxie Groebner and from Studio 6 Agency. And we are talking about your online presence and bringing your website A game in the pandemic. And so really just kind of recapping, Maxie, some of the points so far, we're talking about the trends you've seen over the last year with the pandemic in terms of changes in people's services that they need and how you've had to expand people's websites to provide different services and to relay and advertise those services as well. And we talked about trends in terms of virtual experience of the user and how that might stick around in some way or shape or form post-COVID. So, I hear a lot of what your services are and what you do, and I'm wondering if you can share with our listeners tonight, those that might be considering, let's say, reaching out to you to maybe hire you for your services. How do you and your agency, how does Studio 6 Agency differentiate yourselves from other digital marketing or website design agencies out there?
Sure. I mean, like one of the biggest differentiator that we always bring up is that we really bring in those two components. Like I said from the beginning, it's that strategy end and that creative end. It's great to build a beautiful website, to have all these flashy things, all the bells and whistles. But at the end, if there's no strategy behind it, if you're not really talking to the right person, if you're not really showing the right images, you're really just having a beautiful website. It's not going to do much for you. So like one of the things that we really always, how we differentiate ourselves from other agencies is really like that thought process, that research that gets done at the very beginning when we take on new clients on like, who is their audience? Who are we gonna talk to? What is really the best way? I mean, like some of our clients is geared very young. Like we have a client who has a three-way mirror for like the self-haircutting industry, and it's a very young 18 to 25-year-old crowd, but we do a website but then we pull them to like the Instagram, the TikToks, the YouTube, like really having it specifically for them as strategy. Or then you have like an older generation who like wants to go golfing or they want to go to a resort. It's like a different like a website layout, and then the strategic end with the advertising that comes after it. Because like we always say, like you can have a great website, but if nobody knows that it's there because you don't have no advertising in place, not gonna bring you any business. So those are like the big two components that we always try to shove down our client's throat, but it's like really just like keeping a reminder and keeping it in front of their head.
Right. Yeah. I think that's true. I try to think about it in terms of like, say, a physical presence, a brick and mortar analogy. Say if if let's say you designed a beautiful office somewhere, but it wasn't really on the map and people couldn't find it, it was hard to get directions to, and it was somewhere out in, I don't know, Gowanus or somewhere that's maybe not regularly easy accessibility by subways or trains, you just have this gorgeous office inside, but your clients aren't there. Just by way of an analogy, a metaphor, let's say if we were speaking about the brick and mortar, I think it's an important point about how you marry those two. And that's, I think, how we started this podcast tonight. You're talking about your experience, how you form your agency, how you have this creative side that creates and develops and designs. Then you have also the strategic around the marketing and the placement and the visibility.
Correct. I mean, that's really like where I like come in. That's like my part of the agency. It's like really that strategic. And that's what I love. I love to do research. I like to crunch numbers to really like look, okay, what are the trends? What are some new things that are coming up? And like, how can it help visually with the client and like moving them forward? Because at the end, it's really about the client.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. And, in terms of the websites, you mentioned earlier about having some kind of a chat or connection. I'm wondering, what's your impression? Because I've heard different things, different people, and you're an expert in this field, about having the sort of the web chat bot come up and say, can I help you on the site? Do you think that's a beneficial thing, or can it be seen as sort of an annoyance, or does it depend upon the type of service?
It depends on the type of service. I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. We recommend to our clients not just to have a boot. If you really want to have a chat service, try to have somebody man it from certain hours, like let's say from 9 to 5, to actually have a live person, than just a boot that answers questions based on like what you're typing in and keywords that the boot really like realizes you might be asking. Because people still want to talk to that real person. Otherwise, they could just pick up a phone or they can write you an email. Like, it's nice to have it as a feature. We don't recommend it unless it's a live person behind it that can actually help you with your question. Because otherwise, a lot of these boots, they work like you write in your question, it tells you they are not there right now. They're trying to help you. If they can't help you, they're going to write you an email anyway. So it's just like it wastes the user's time to write all of that. They could have just easily, they're just going to go away. They're not going to wait for that email to come around. They could have just called. So like, while it's nice to have it on some, definitely if you have the resources, try to add that live component to actually have it manned by one person or two or however many. And there are like softwares out there that actually your entire team could be connected, and depending on who has time when that chat comes in, they can answer it, and you can like sort of stretch it over 10 people instead of just one person.
Oh, so it need not be, let's say, one worker who's sitting from 9 to 5 answering the questions. It could be that the chatbot, let's say, distributes the question, distributes it out to your team. And if someone is, let's say, at lunch, they won't answer, if somebody else is around, they might take the question. It's a good point. It reminds me about the importance, I guess, of, it comes back to that, my perception here, the user experience, right? What is the fastest for the user? What's the most convenient? And what's the most responsive? And so if they're typing and the chat bot or whatever you call it can't answer their question, or they have to then repeat it somewhere else, it becomes like a little bit of a hassle, which is, I think, a really good point, to make.
It's sort of like if you're using an analogy, you're going into a brick and mortar store, you're gonna go to ask somebody a question, and you're not gonna stand in front of a tower and try to like type in your questions that you might have. So it's always to have that life experience is always better. Even if it's online, it's still a life experience.
Right. No, I think really good, all part of the bigger picture you're talking about, all part of the, the online visibility and presence and the experience and the trends we've seen so far. We've got about 3 minutes left, Max. So usually at this part of the show, I'd like to turn it over to you for the next 2 minutes to talk about any either how people can contact you or any perhaps events you might have coming up, like a webinar, or how do we get in touch with you if we want to hire you. And then I'll take over the last minute just to thank you and wrap up the show. But it's all yours, and the floor is yours.
Sure. Again, my name is Maxie Groebner. We are with Studio 6 Agency. You can either reach out online, go to www.studio6agency.com. It's the number 6, not the number written out. My email address is Maxie, MAXIE, @studio6agency.com. You can drop me an email. You can also call me, 914-788-6471. We're happy to help with anything that has to do with your service or product to help you promote yourself and to get some more sales.
Mm. Excellent, great. Are there any upcoming webinars or not or in the pipeline, or maybe not in the immediate moment?
Not in the immediate future.
Okay. Just stay as busy working on all these websites and all these things you're talking about, huh? All the different.
Yep, I'm just trying to keep afloat here.
Right. Well, it's great, Maxie, to have you discuss and talk about all these different aspects of what you do. We started the show, right, talking about how we're in this the different time in the pandemic and how we all really need, the online presence. And so I think for many people, just knowing that they're hiring someone like you who knows what they're doing and who understands like the logic behind the marketing and the strategy, I think it's an important tool you're providing. So, and I sincerely hope too that you continue with your success, and also that the service you're providing now will continue to thrive during this pandemic. And on that note, I just need to wrap up because I given the 1 minute here from the radio station. Folks, I'm Eric Sauver, host of the show Employment Law Today. I'm here every Tuesday evening, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Talk Radio NYC. We have interesting guests. We talk about valuable services and issues that business owners are facing. If you like the show, come back, bring your colleagues, bring your friends, have people come to stay and watch, and feel free to inject your comments as well. And we'll be back next Tuesday at 5 p.m. So again, Maxie, thank you so much. Wishing you a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
All right.
You're listening to Talk Radio